Hi there, I'm Megan. I am a movement and meditation teacher. Today we're going to do a little practice to help release the low back, and my assistant Leia is going to help us, it seems. Our low back muscles tend to get contracted for all kinds of reasons, but sitting can be a major factor that affects a lot of us. So today we're going to bring some gentle movement into that area and help to create a little more space and hopefully reduce some tension. Why don't we begin by sitting nice and tall? So come to a comfortable shape. I'm going to sit cross-legged, but you may feel better kneeling, or perhaps you feel better with your legs long in front of you. Wherever we come, let's stretch that spine nice and tall. Tuck the chin in and take a moment to try to flatten the low back. We want to think about stacking ears over shoulders, shoulders over ribs, ribs over hips, so that there's that nice stack along the spine. And then take a nice big breath in. Just really fill the lungs and belly. Exhale, fully sigh it out. Let's come to bring a little bit of movement into our back. So it's a small movement, but I want you to think about pulling your pubic bone up towards your rib cage. So you're pushing your low back out, letting it round behind you. You notice that I am losing a little bit of my height here as I'm contracting through the front of my core. So coming here into a posterior tilt, I'm going to sit back up onto my pelvis, coming back through neutral. And then I'm going to try to push my tailbone behind me, widening the space between rib cage and pubic bone. So you can see I'm kind of puffing out through the belly. My low back is really arching. Come back to neutral. Feel your back flatten out. Come into your posterior tilt, pulling your pubic bone towards the ribs, letting the low back round, finding yourself shortening. Back up through neutral. And then coming the other way into our anterior tilt, really arching through the low back, through the torso. And back through neutral. All right. Thank you for your help, buddy. But I got this. Can you go to bed? Go to bed, please. Let's bring a little bit of movement into the side body, helping to open up through the low back, one side at a time. So arms stretch nice and wide. Inhale, grow long through your spine, stretch tall. Exhale, slide to your right. Let the right hand fall to the floor, and the left arm reaches up and over. As we do this, we want the chest nice and open, that left arm pulling behind you. Really want to feel that stretch through the left side of the waist, maybe even up into the armpit, as the right side of the waist contracts, leaning over to that side. We stay mindful of the shoulders, staying stacked instead of crumpling forward. And then a nice big inhale is going to bring you back up to center. Arms stretch wide to the left, coming over to our second side. Again, keeping that right shoulder pulled behind you, nice and open. And just because we have two sides does not mean that our experiences will feel symmetrical side to side. So notice what you feel here. Breathing into that side body, into the trunk. And then pulling yourself back up through center, letting the arms drop on your exhale. Excellent. Let's come onto hands and knees. If you have sensitive knees, maybe taking a towel roll to place underneath them, or you can fold through your mat for a little extra cushioning. We'll meet in tabletop. In tabletop, we want our knees hips distance apart, stacked underneath our hips. Shoulders are over top of our hands, nice wide fingers. And we want to start with our back in a nice neutral shape. Let's recreate that movement, that oscillation through the spine that we did while we were sitting. So start with your pelvis. Let's start by pulling your pubic bone up towards your ribs. So feel your pelvis tilt and notice how short you get through the torso. The low back and mid back start to round, really puff up through the shoulder blades, tuck your chin in so you look back towards your knees. Moving from the hips first. Start to tilt your tailbone back into neutral. Let the spine stretch long, chin tucks in, but now you're looking in between your hands. Coming the other way, tailbone pushes up towards the ceiling. Hips and belly dipping down towards the floor. Let the low back arch. And then let the space between your shoulder blades soften to the floor. Chin lifts up. Pull the spine back into neutral. Chin tucks in. Rib cage lifts. Belly lifts. Continuing one more time. Now you know where we're going. Let's start by pulling the pubic bone forward, letting the low back round, really push into the hands, puff up through the shoulders, tuck the neck in. Releasing back to neutral through neck, torso, hips. And then moving from the pelvis, tilt the tailbone behind you, stretching wide through the belly, letting the lumbar spine drop. Letting the chest drop, lifting up through the chin. Back to neutral. Nice. And while we're here in neutral, let's bring a little bit of movement from one side to the next. So let's take our right leg, stretch it out long behind you, and cross it over to the left side of your mat. So it's a little hard to see here, but I have actually lifted my leg up and over my bent knee. And then with my right hand, I'm going to reach in front of my left hand, tucking my chin in. I want to really lean into that right side of the body. Not going to be winning the most beautiful yoga pose. But what we want is to really feel that line of stretch through the right side of the shoulder, ribs, torso, waist, and the top of the hip. Take one more breath here. Slowly, let's bring ourselves back onto hands and knees into center. And we'll set up for the second side. So left leg reaches long and out behind you. I'm actually going to keep mine bent because I don't have enough space in my very small apartment. And left hand is going to reach up in front of my right hand. I'm tucking my neck and chin in, and I'm going to try to lean my body weight over to the left side of the mat, really opening up through the left side. Again, I'm not winning the most beautiful yoga pose shape, but hopefully we are opening into a side of the body that often gets forgotten. Coming back in through center to bring yourself to hands and knees. And let's bring the knees as wide as the mat. Toes come together, shifting the hips down and back for child's pose. Arms stretch long, chin tucks in. And just let the body sink down towards the floor. Allow the breath to come into the belly if you can. And no matter how close or far your hips are from your heels, from the mat, see if you can just soften into a place of less resistance, less tension, less effort. As you're ready, feeling yourself up, let's come to roll onto our back. As we come down onto our back, keeping a bend through the knees, feet come flat to the floor. And then just take a moment, tuck those shoulders underneath you as you come to the floor here. I've got my hands palm up towards the ceiling, down open wide, but down near the hips. And then heel toe your feet until you feel roughly the edges of your mat. Bringing the hands to the belly. Do a little bit of movement with the breath. Nice big inhale. Feel the belly rise and fill with air. Exhale, let both knees tilt over towards the right. Hanging out here for a full breath all the way in. Exhale fully. Try to let the legs just hang without effort. Your next inhale, nice and slowly, swivels the knees back up to the center, feeling the back of the pelvis find the mat. Exhale, both knees slowly drop to the right until you can find a place of effortlessness. Nice big inhale, staying still. Exhale to release the effort. And let's keep going at this pace. Your inhale brings your knees up to center, pelvis finds the mat. Exhale brings you down to the other side. And you can move at your own pace. It's fine if your breath doesn't match mine. Inhaling to stay still for a full breath. Staying still for the exhale as well. Next inhale brings us motion to the center. And the exhale of that breath sets you over to the other side. Then allowing the body to soften into the shape, not for long, just for one full breath, all the way in and out. Taking the next breath cycle for some movement on the inhale and the exhale. One more, moving up through center to the other side. For our last stationary cycle here. The next exhale brings you into the center. Just take a moment to let the knees fall together, leaning on top of each other or on the insides of each other for support. Just take a moment to notice how it felt to do that, if you noticed any differences left to right or as you repeated the motions. And then let us come to bring a little bit of closeness between the soles of the feet. So walking them back to about hips distance apart. Take your hands nice and long, palms facing down this time. Or you can bend at the elbow and push the backs of the arms into the ground, whatever you prefer. We're going to push into the arms, push into the feet, let the hips lift all the way up. Squeeze through the glutes as you come up here. And just take a moment in the air. Let's start with that pelvic tilt. So pushing down through the feet to keep your hips lifted so you're not tapping into the mat. Pull that pubic bone towards the ribs. You'll notice there's a bit of a drop in your back as you do that. That's fine. That's also just the back rounding. Pushing up through your feet, let your hips come to more neutral. And then pull that tailbone back, really arching through the low back. Push into your feet so you have enough height that your hips don't lean on the floor. Come back to center. And then really slowly lower the back down. Mid-back comes down first, then the low back, then the back of the pelvis. Once the pelvis finds the floor fully, release the effort from your glutes, from your hips, and bring both knees in towards your chest. Give yourself a nice little hug. As you do, feel the low back round. Bring both hands over towards your right shin. With your left leg, you can stretch it long, or you can bring your foot flat to the floor. It's really what feels better in your body, what your space allows. As you're creating this little bit of compression, pulling the right thigh over the right side of the rib cage, pay attention to how it feels, what's flattened out in the back body. Release your hands, bringing them down to your side. We'll bring the baby toe of the right foot up and over the left thigh. So if your left leg went down straight, we're going to bring the foot flat to the floor, and we are doing this kind of legs crossed figure 4 with our knee pushing down and away towards the edge of our mat. Arms are going to come out to the side like a T, or you can reach up overhead if that feels comfortable for the low back. We just want them out of the way of the hips. Nice big inhale, fill the lungs, fill the belly. Exhale, let your legs dip over to the left with that right foot reaching over to the left side of the body. You want both shoulders to stay tacked on the mat. Your leg can lean as far as comfortable to the other side. Doesn't matter how far you go. It doesn't need to touch the ground, especially if that creates a lot of discomfort coming through the hip, or if it means that you start to peel up off the mat. We want to have our shoulders equally pushing down. Nice big inhale, squeeze the muscles of the legs, pull them back up to the center. Left foot finding the floor. Exhale to release, bringing right foot down to the floor. You can stretch the right leg long or keep it bent, whatever feels better. Left knee curls up towards the torso, hands reach for the shin. Give yourself a nice little squeeze. Feel the low back round. Try to let the shoulders go heavy. Try to release the effort from the foot. Just noticing the parts of the left lower back as they push into the mat. Maybe noticing if the sensations are similar or different from the other side. Releasing the left leg, let's bring the baby toe side of the foot across the right thigh. So if you bent your right leg, if you straightened your right leg, you're going to bend it now. Coming to find this figure 4 shape with the legs again, peeling your left knee down and open. Let's feel that space of the hip engaged. Arms reaching up out of the way, out to the side like a T or a little cactus, reaching up above your head, whatever feels best. Nice big inhale, fill the lungs, fill the torso. Exhale, let the legs reach over to the right side of the body. Keep both shoulders tacked on the mat and find a comfortable angle to let the legs rest. Your foot might find the floor, it might not, that's okay. Knee stays peeling down and open away from the body towards the end of the mat. I'm going to keep that stretch through the outer hip. Let the breath come into the belly. A few more breaths here, just noticing what you feel. Nice big inhale, fully squeeze the legs, pulling them back up through center. Exhale to bring your left foot down beside the right. Keeping a bend in the knees, feet are flat. We've done a little bit of twisting through the lower body. Let's add a little bit of a deeper low back opener. So while you're here, push into your feet, lift your hips up a little bit, tuck your tailbone so that the pubic bone and the ribs come closer together, and come back down to the floor. So our pelvis is tilted slightly forward. And then bring both knees in towards the chest, reach for your shins, but let your knees open really wide. If you have a really tight low back, you might choose to stay here. If you tend to be more flexible through the hips or no low back issues or discomfort, you might reach for the insides of the feet coming into happy baby. Wherever you are, you want to try to let the breath come into the belly, moving freely. Noticing this rounding through the low back. into our last few breaths here. We did an Vipassana with knees over chest before. This is almost like an inverted child's pose, depending what version you took. Notice the difference of having your knees wide. What did this change in your sensation? Does it feel different than the child's pose we did before we moved to our back body or not? And if your hands are on your feet like mine, gently letting the feet fall back towards the backs of the legs and reach around your legs. Give yourself a nice big squeeze coming back into our Vipassana. Thighs pushing down over rib cage and releasing. Letting go of the legs, bringing the soles of the feet back to the mat. Arms coming up into cactus or wide like a T. Walk both of your feet all the way over to the left side of your mat. Push in through the soles of your feet, lift your hips up. Come to roll on the right side of your hip and then let both knees roll over to the right. You can stack your legs like mine are currently. Or sometimes it feels better to let the top leg kind of lean down towards the floor and bring your bottom leg gently leaning. That can help to bring the stretch a little more through the leg. Our intention here is really to focus on that twist through the low back, but play around with the legs, see what feels comfortable for you. And in order to make sure that we are twisting properly, we want our shoulders tacked down onto the mat with our knees pointing over to the right so that we have that rotation happening through our lumbar spine, bringing rotation into the muscles of the low back, the QLs, the lumbar erectors that help stabilize the spine. And then just let the breath come to the belly. Try to let the back body sink into the shape. Just a few more breaths here. Nice big inhale, squeeze the legs, start to lift the knees back up towards the ceiling, letting the back body find the right side of your mat. Exhale fully once you're up. Walk both feet all the way over towards the right side of your mat, maybe lifting up your back as you go. Pushing into the soles of your feet, lift your body up, tilt over so that the left side of your hip finds the floor, and then letting both knees fall over to the left. Choose the leg position that feels the best for this side. It doesn't have to be the same shape you took on the other side. Take some time to make sure both shoulders push down into the mat beneath you. And then over the next few breaths, just let yourself get heavy as you soften into this reclined twist. Noticing any sensations as they arrive through the low back, through the hips, even through the rib cage. Sometimes when we lack mobility, the joints above or below that area really compensate or they bear the burden. So just noticing the feedback as it comes. Nice big inhale, squeeze the legs, start to pull the knees back up towards the ceiling, letting the feet and the back body find the floor. Push into your feet, lift your hips up, just find the center of your mat. Let yourself roll all the way over to a side, and we will push ourselves back up to sitting for just a few more movements. So coming to a comfortable seat. I recommend cross-legged if it's comfortable to you, just because we really want the seat of the pelvis on the floor. If cross-legged isn't comfortable, nice extended wide legs will work too. Stretch nice and tall through the spine. As you inhale, reach your arms all the way up overhead. We're going to twist ourselves over to the right side of the body with the right hand reaching behind you, the left hand reaching across your body for your opposite leg. And then just hang out as you twist to the side. Your arm behind you operating as a little kickstand. Getting the height of the spine by leaning into that arm behind you. Pulling that right shoulder behind you so that the chest and the rib cage, that twist, comes all the way up through the torso. You might even turn to look over the right shoulder. Nice big inhale, reach the arms all the way tall as the torso comes back through the center. As you start to exhale, hands come down, left hand behind you, right arm reaching across the body. Pushing into that back hand to stay nice and tall. Left shoulder pulls behind you. Stretching tall through the spine. Letting the breath come to normal. Nice big inhale, sweep the arms all the way up, pull yourselves back to center. As you exhale, bring your hands down through your chest, turn your palms out, hands are interlocked, push your hands forward, let the back round. Inhale, arms reach up towards the ceiling, getting long through the spine. Exhale, arms come down. Stretching your legs nice and long in front of you. One more type of twist. Right leg reaches up and over the left. Right hand's going to reach out behind you for our kickstand. Left hand grabbing the leg, helping us come into a twist. Letting the breath come into the belly here. Releasing, coming in through the center, switching your legs. So the left leg coming to have a bend, coming up and over the right leg. Left hand reaching behind you, push into it, get tall. Looking over towards the left shoulder. Let the breath come into the belly. One last breath here. Nice big inhale, coming back into the center, letting the legs go. Just taking a moment to notice how you feel. Thank you for joining me today for this low back practice. I hope to move and breathe and be mindful with you soon.